Book, it's actually really my third book, but really my second book. I wrote a novel, published a novel last year called The Final Retreat. And this book is, and that's a very dark, serious book. This is more small essays, thoughts about music mainly, and about other things in life. A lot of it grew out of a blog I had on the Daily Telegraph website. And so I took the ones that I thought were interesting, and then I rewrote them and worked and combined them, and some of them I rethought. I'd actually changed my mind since I did that. And then other longer essays I've written, speeches I've given, thoughts on theology, I mean, all kinds of things. So we go backstage, you know, what's it like warming up? How do you trill? So there's a lot of advice for pianists. So it goes over all kinds of different things, and the chapters are very small. So yeah, it's 450 pages of thoughts that I've had when I'm traveling around the world. It was 1986 or 7 the first time. Oh my gosh. It was this piece, of course. I remember, I really love coming to Singapore, and I have done every time. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, not so different. That is amazing. No, I remember it very, very clearly. I stayed at the Shangri-La. It was right at the beginning of my career, so I hadn't played in many places. And I fell in love with Singapore. I loved the weather from the beginning. I still do. I hope it's nice and hot outside. It's a kind of a mustiness that you get in tropical countries where there's a lot of moisture in the air. The furniture becomes damp and has that smell, which I think is a beautiful smell, actually. And it reminds me of that. And it used to be like that in Victoria Hall. You'd walk in there and you'd smell this kind of decadence of wood rotting, you know, or of plaster. You know how it was in the old Victoria Hall, it was coming off the wall because of the damp. And I loved that. And of course, I loved all of the eccentricity of this wonderful country, you know. I think it's a country for me which combines more different things than almost any country I know. You know, the history of it and the people, and yet, you know, it's somewhere where it's always been a joy for me to be. People are so kind, things work, you know, the light bulbs are all working in this room, aren't they? I'm always happy to come back. You know, for me, art and music is just a humanizing thing. To me, if I took music and literature and painting out of my life, I think it would be a shell. And I think it would be somehow inhuman. Of course, I'm biased because I'm a classical musician, but you know, here we are. This piece already, this is over 100 years old, but when we're playing a Beethoven concerto like I was a couple of years ago, we did all of them here. This is music that's 200 years old, and yet it's completely fresh and valid today. And why do we create music? Why do we go to concerts? We want to be taken to another dimension, really. And so in that sense, it's very like religion. It's just colouring it in. And if you think of everyday existence of, you know, you get up in the morning and you have your breakfast and you work and you go home, and it's all black and white. And to me, art is making it all full of colour. And I think this is why it's always going to be relevant, you know, and it's why we want people to come to concerts. We want people to go into an ecstasy. We want them to leave the concert hall feeling changed. And I think once people get an idea that classical music is incredibly daring, exciting, you know, these emotions that these composers are dealing with are not easy things. But I think once we get that message over, I think people will start to say, oh gosh, yeah, well, it isn't just boring and middle class. This is something really exciting and radical. So that would be my message to people, really.